So I've been on about it for ages, but here is my review of the fantastic Otzi knife by Joe Flowers and Condor. Here it is. Show it to you guys. What a thing of beauty. I mean, what a great combination. Joe Flowers and Condor. Absolute dream team in my book. And yeah, said before, Joe Flowers make a well sexy knife. So yeah, you teaming up with Condor, mate, that makes me well happy. Thank you so much. So this is a recreation of one of the most important historical finds that happened by total chance. So here is the story of Otzi. So in 1991, in September, there were two hikers who were hiking up in the Alps, and they found what they thought was a dead hiker, someone that had perished from the elements. So the medical examiners were called in, and Otzi was taken and was being investigated as an active missing persons case for a few days, until they realised that there's a few strange things about this and called in some archaeologists. And the archaeologists turned up and were like, oh my good gosh, this is absolutely incredible. And it turned out that instead of some poor hiker who'd passed away on a high trail, they had discovered the oldest European mummy. He'd been preserved so perfectly by the weather conditions, by the cold, that he was in such a condition that they genuinely thought that he was a recently deceased hiker. And then obviously the archaeologists got in on this because, oh my god, what a find. Anything from the Copper Age is just, yeah, I mean, it's going back like 5,000 years plus. Like, it's estimated that Otzi died around 3,100 BC. So, I mean, he's one of the original survivalists, one of the original bushcrafters, one of the original preppers, and there were so many pieces of kit found with him that tell us so much about his life. From pollen samples and grain and conditions of tooth enamel, you know, things that they found in his stomach, they can tell his last meals, like ibex, so they can tell his diet. But I say from the pollen samples, they've been able to kind of tell where he's come from and where he's been at different stages in his life. So it looked like poor Otzi had a pretty nomadic existence, a pretty lonely, rough life. He was about 46 when he died, and he'd got a lot of physical things wrong with him, which I can really sympathise with. And he's got one of the earliest records of tattooing, which were lots of little tattoo marks around joints that have been shown on x-rays of him, that he had some sort of arthritis and joint problems. So that again is some amazing historical evidence for the use of kind of tattooing as a sort of, I guess, the modern equivalent that we'd know it or reference it as would be kind of acupuncture. But yeah, so the historical significance of Otzi, he was dressed in a variety of leathers, all sorts of different things, and his shoes as well, they were so well preserved. There was such a wealth of knowledge, and his knife was one of the things that was found with him. He was also found with, he was making or repairing a yew bow, and was found with a load of arrows and a quiver, and he was actually killed. He was literally shot in the back by an arrow. So I think that Otzi was hardcore as anything. He was living a rugged life, and full respect to him. So that was why I was so happy when I found out that this knife was being created. So Yeah, and if anybody wants to go and pay their respect to Otzi, his remains are in the, sorry, I'll have to read this off a piece of paper. Yeah, in the South Tyrol Museum of Archaeology, which is in Italy. So yeah, that's where Otzi is now. But full respect to the man, and yeah, original survivalist prepper. Hats off to Otzi the Iceman. You guys need to look him up. So onto the knife. This knife is absolutely beautiful. Otzi's knife had an ash handle and was wrapped in copper wire. So, and obviously like knife technology has moved on, the amount of resources have moved, and I really like how Joe Flowers and Condor have kept this so similar to the original knife, and in look and appearance, and I'm assuming in feel as well. As I say, I've never actually held the original knife, I couldn't say, but from pictures it does look like a very good replica, but with a very modern twist that it's a functional knife. So we've got a hickory handle, but it's still wrapped with the copper wire, which I really like. And then the blade on Otzi's knife, it was made out of a flint-like stone called chert. And the chert, obviously, like flint, wouldn't have held an edge as well. Otzi was hardcore. There were 4 types of blood found on his knife. So obviously it was something that he was using, and there were chips in his knife as well. So I reckon he was on the run and just didn't get lucky. So yeah, I mean, the more that we find out, I'm still hoping that in the future there's going to be more found about Otzi and his life, and archaeology is moving on so well. And a big shout out to all my archaeologist friends, because knowing this stuff and learning this stuff is so cool. So yeah, the other thing that I really like about this is that Condor, usually most of their knives will use the 1075 for carbon steel. For this one, they've used the 1095. So obviously 1095 is going to be a little more brittle than the 1075, and I don't know if this is the reason why, but I really like the fact that it just makes me think, it reminds me of the chert, the original chert flint blade, a little more brittle than you would get if you had a softer carbon steel. So I really like that. That's a really nice feature, and obviously if you have a look, it's been hammered to replicate as well, but it goes to a really nice Scandi grind, so that is really easy to maintain. It's beautiful, and it's got that, I don't know what it is, but it's that black stuff that they put on carbon blades nowadays to stop them rusting. I don't normally like it, but on here it does look beautiful, and it really does add to the look of the historical replication. Also the blade, it's a partial tang, which is, I mean, normally I wouldn't recommend a full tang, but it's just a small utility knife, and it's been fixed in with some sort of like epoxy glue, if you can see, but that's been blackened, and I quite like that because pitch is black, and that is something that would have been used to fix knife blades in Otzi's day. So again, hats off to the people that have created this and have gone to such trouble to create such a beautiful replica. So I really like it as a knife. Functionally, I wouldn't use it for heavy duty. For anything like heavy duty, I would definitely have a different knife. But like I said, I'll put a link to my Bushcraft Knife video, different knives for different purposes. And to be honest, this one, I bought it as a treat at the start of lockdown. I just started some new MS treatment thing, had that all booked in, and thought, you know what, treat myself. And Otzi the Iceman is just always thought he was so cool. And so yeah, this one was a proper treat, but it has become my most used knife. Genuinely, on day-to-day basis, this is the one that I will put in my pocket, that I will use the most. As you can see, it's got a small handle. For some people that might be a bit small, but for me that is absolutely perfect. I can put my thumb on the back quite happily. So for carving, I've been finding it's great because you get a lot of control with it. Obviously, the point of the tip, you've got a good, that is brilliant for bow drills. I've been using it a lot when we were harvesting, so beans, berries, the small size of it and the fact it is just perfectly fitting in your hand. But you know, those are the sort of things that Otzi would have been using it for, I hope and imagine. But I'm paying respect by using it for the similar tasks that he did. I've not yet had the opportunity to try using it for skinning, but as soon as I do, I shall post a video and let you guys know how I get on. But to be fair, looking at it, looking at the shape of it, and I say the Scandi grind and the control, I like a knife that I've got good control over, which is good for, you know, if you've got a small blade and a small handle. Unfortunately, it is just over the limit for UK legal carry, but it is an absolutely beautiful, practical day-to-day knife. So yeah, Otzi knife. That's my brief history lesson. And yeah, oh, and the scabbard, I almost forgot. The scabbard is the other thing. Otzi's knife originally had a grass scabbard. So obviously Otzi's knife wasn't going to be as sharp as the Condor Joe Flowers design, because it was using very different materials for the blade and different things being available. Obviously Otzi was dressed in a lot of skins, so he would have possibly had the option to make a leather sheath, which makes me think that the blade didn't really need it. So yeah, it shows how well the blades have come on in the last 5,000 years. But the scabbard for this is very, very nice. The stitching technique used on the back is very reminiscent of some more kind of Copper Age, prehistoric kind of stitching techniques that archaeologists have found from like bog burials. It did come with a leather thong that was meant to look like a grapevine, which was one criticism I have of this knife, which is pretty good to say if this is the only thing that I can find to criticise about it. So yeah, I replaced that with one that's a little bit more comfortable to wear, but again, any sort of natural cordage Otzi would have had like access to. So yeah, and I also like that it's got a notch side, because otherwise you'd be putting your knife in the wrong way, and obviously it's strengthened a little bit on the side where the blade is going to be. So yeah, when you're putting it away, you know, to put it with the blade going towards where the notch is. And yeah, it's absolutely perfect. It's a really nice weight to carry around your neck. And it is a beautiful, beautiful little day-to-day use knife. Like with any knife, especially with carbon steel, look after it, and I'll put a link in, but you should always... Sorry, that was my phone falling down. I will be getting some better technology next week, guys. So wait for the Pixie technological revolution. That'll be interesting. But yeah, so there's the blade oil. There's the wood oil for the handle, and there's some leather wax for the sheath. So I shall put those in the links, and yeah, and say goodbye before I drop my phone. And yeah, subscribe to my channel. It's been amazing to see how many people. If I get to 250, I am treating myself to a takeaway in a hedgerow, and I will film it because people have the funniest reactions when you order food to the middle of nowhere. Take care, guys.